30 days, £5 a day, £150 total. That was my entire budget for food, transport, entertainment, everything except fixed bills for a full calendar month. Now, before you think this is some kind of poverty tourism, some comfortable millionaire pretending to struggle for content, I want to be clear about why I actually did this. I did it because I genuinely believe most people have no idea where their money goes, including me. I thought I did. I thought I was fairly disciplined. I thought I had a good handle on my spending. I was wrong. 30 days of living on £5 a day taught me more about money, about how I think about it, how I spend it, what I actually need versus what I assume I need, than almost anything else I have ever done. Today I'm going to take you through the whole month, the hardest days, the surprising days, the moments that genuinely changed how I think, and the 10 money lessons that came out of it that I am still applying right now. Let's go. Let me explain exactly what the challenge involved and why I structured it the way I did. The rule was simple: £5 per day for all variable spending. That's food, transport beyond my normal commute, entertainment, eating out, coffee, anything discretionary. Fixed costs, mortgage, utilities, insurance, phone contract were excluded because those can't realistically be changed month to month. Why £5 specifically? Because it forced genuine constraint without being physically dangerous. £5 a day is genuinely tight in the UK in 2026. It requires real planning, real trade-offs, and real discomfort, but it's survivable. And the discomfort is the point. The honest motivation behind this was twofold. First, I wanted to understand viscerally what constraint feels like, not intellectually, not theoretically, in my body, in my daily decisions, in the moments when I wanted something and couldn't have it. Because I think constraint is one of the most financially educational experiences available, and most people in comfortable financial circumstances never experience it. Second, I wanted to find out how much of my normal spending was genuinely necessary versus automatic, habitual, thoughtless, because I suspected the answer would surprise me. It did. Let me take you through the month. Week 1 was the hardest week, and not primarily for the reasons I expected. I expected to miss restaurants. I expected to miss easy convenience food. I expected to feel the absence of casual spending a coffee here, a snack there, that I hadn't even noticed was part of my routine. All of that happened. But the thing that hit me hardest in week 1 wasn't the missing of specific things. It was the cognitive load. Every single spending decision required thought. Every journey required planning. Could I walk instead of getting transport? Every meal required preparation. What can I make that costs under £1 per portion? Every social situation required navigation. How do I handle this without spending money I don't have in this budget? The mental energy required to manage £5 a day was genuinely exhausting. And that exhaustion taught me something I hadn't expected to learn. Here's the insight. This cognitive load, this constant calculating, planning and decision-making around money is the permanent reality for people who are genuinely financially constrained, not as a 30-day experiment, as a daily, indefinite experience. And it affects decision-making, it affects stress levels, it affects every other area of life. The research on this is actually well documented. Scarcity, genuine financial scarcity, consumes cognitive bandwidth in ways that impair decision making, which means financial constraint doesn't just feel bad, it actively makes it harder to make the good decisions that would reduce the constraint. Week 1 lesson. The hidden cost of financial stress is not just emotional, it's cognitive. And understanding that changed how I think about financial education as a priority, not a luxury for people at every income level. Spending in week 1, £34.60, slightly over budget for the week. The overspend came from a transport cost I hadn't anticipated. Week 2 was different. The shock wore off. The adaptation began. And what I found in week 2 genuinely surprised me. I got better at it. Not just logistically, though that happened too, as I figured out the cheapest meal combinations, the cheapest transport routes, the social situations I could navigate comfortably without spending. I got better at it psychologically. Here's what I mean. By week 2, the absence of casual spending stopped feeling like deprivation. It started feeling like clarity. Every day I had exactly £5. I knew exactly what I could do with it. I made deliberate choices about where it went. And there was something genuinely satisfying about that deliberateness that I hadn't expected. This is the thing about constraint that nobody tells you. Constraint forces intentionality. When you can spend freely, most spending happens on autopilot, habitual, thoughtless, driven by convenience or impulse. When you can't, every purchase becomes a real decision. And real decisions, conscious, deliberate choices about where your money goes, are the foundation of good financial management. Week 2, I ate well. Porridge in the mornings, genuinely filling, genuinely cheap, genuinely good. Home-cooked meals in the evenings. Lunches prepared the night before. Total food spend for the week, about £18. Transport, walked everywhere I reasonably could. Total week 2 spend, £27.80. Under budget for the first time. The key adaptation. I stopped thinking about what I was missing and started thinking about what I was learning. That mental shift changed the experience completely. Weeks 3 and 4 are where the genuinely interesting things happened. By week 3, I had adapted to the logistics. The spending was manageable, the meals were sorted, the routine was established. And with the practical challenges largely resolved, I had mental space to actually pay attention to what I was noticing about money and behaviour. Here are the 3 discoveries that genuinely changed how I think. Discovery 1. Most of my pre-challenge spending was not making me happy. This sounds obvious in retrospect, but living it experience in a month where I couldn't spend on most of the things I used to spend on automatically and finding that my happiness levels were not significantly different was genuinely eye-opening. The takeaway coffees I bought almost daily, the convenience food I grabbed when I couldn't be bothered to cook, the casual Amazon purchases that arrived and were forgotten within a week, the streaming subscriptions I paid for and rarely used intentionally. None of these were making me meaningfully happier. They were just normal, expected, part of the texture of daily life that I'd never examined because there was never a reason to. Removing them for 30 days did not make me miserable. It made me mildly uncomfortable for about 10 days and then largely indifferent. And that indifference, the realization that most of what I'd been spending money on was adding almost nothing to my actual quality of life, was one of the most financially valuable things I've ever discovered. Discovery 2. Social spending is by far the hardest to control. Of all the spending categories I'd anticipated being difficult, social spending was the one that surprised me most. Not in terms of how much it was, but in terms of the emotional difficulty of navigating it. When friends suggested going out for dinner, saying no felt socially isolating. When a round of drinks came round, the pressure, the entirely self-generated social pressure to participate was genuinely uncomfortable. When a birthday came up and I couldn't contribute in the ways I normally would, I felt something close to genuine distress. This taught me something important about why people overspend socially even when they know they shouldn't. It's not about the money, it's about belonging, about participation, about not being the person who's absent from shared experiences. Understanding this helped me think about social spending differently, not as a failure of discipline, but as a genuine psychological challenge that requires deliberate strategies to manage, not just willpower. Discovery 3, the relationship between money and time. In week 4, I started tracking not just what I was spending, but what I was doing instead of spending. And what I found was striking. Without casual spending to fill time, without the option of just going out, ordering food, buying entertainment, I had significantly more time. Time I filled differently. Reading, walking, cooking properly, having longer, more substantive conversations with people I cared about. And the uncomfortable truth I sat with in week 4 was this. A lot of spending is not really about the thing being bought. It's about filling time, managing boredom, providing stimulation that we could get from cheaper or free sources if we were willing to put in slightly more effort. Final numbers. Total spent over 30 days, £142.30. Under my £150 budget. Not by much, but under. For context, My normal variable monthly spending, the spending I tracked before starting the challenge, was approximately £900 per month. I spent £142. The difference was £758. £758 in 1 month that I didn't spend, didn't miss for most of the month, and would normally have been entirely consumed without a second thought. Invested at 8% annually, that monthly saving over 20 years becomes approximately £450,000. That number generated by 1 month of forced clarity about what I was actually spending is why I think this experiment is one of the most valuable things I've ever done. Now, the 10 lessons. 1. Most spending is automatic, not intentional. And automatic spending is almost always higher than intentional spending. 2. Constraint creates clarity. You cannot understand your true spending priorities without experiencing genuine limitation. 3. The cognitive load of financial stress is real and significant. Financial education is a form of cognitive liberation. 4. Social spending is driven by belonging, not by the things themselves. Understanding this changes how you manage it. 5. Most casual spending adds almost nothing to genuine well-being. The happiness it generates is brief, and the absence of it is tolerable far more quickly than you'd expect. 6. A budget is not a restriction. It is a decision-making framework. And a decision-making framework produces better outcomes than autopilot every time. 7. Cooking your own food is not just cheaper, it's significantly better, fresher, more nutritious, more satisfying than most convenience alternatives. 8. Boredom is often the real reason for spending, and boredom can be addressed more cheaply and more satisfyingly than buying things. 9. Time and money are directly convertible. Understanding this makes you more protective of both. 10. You need far less than you think to live well, and the gap between what you need and what you spend is almost always where the wealth is hiding. I went into this experiment thinking I understood my spending. I came out of it understanding that I had almost no idea. £758 in 1 month, spent automatically, without satisfaction, without intention, without awareness. That money redirected into investments consistently, month after month, is the difference between financial stress and financial freedom over a working lifetime. I'm not saying live on £5 a day permanently. That's not sustainable, and it's not the point. The point is to understand, to see clearly, to know what your spending is actually doing and make conscious decisions about it rather than letting autopilot make them for you. Try the challenge. Not necessarily £5, maybe 10, maybe 15. Whatever creates genuine constraint for your income level. Do it for 1 week if 30 days feels too daunting. 1 week of genuine spending constraint will teach you more about your relationship with money than most financial books you'll ever read. And when it's over, take the gap you created, the money you didn't spend, and make a deliberate decision about where it goes. If this experiment made you think differently about your own spending, subscribe to this channel. Every week, practical, honest financial content that actually helps you understand and build your wealth. Drop a comment and tell me, what do you think your biggest automatic spending category is? The one you spend on without really thinking about it? I want to know, and I read every single comment. I'll see you in the next one.